pipe bombs 20% of the time.
Some American airports are still closed for business because of security concerns.
Connie Mayberry is here to tell us what's open and what's not. Connie.
Charles and Rudy, here's a quick update on what's going on at some of the nation's airports. Reagan National Airport is closed for now. It's because of its close proximity to Washington, D.C. Dulles Airport is open, but flights are limited. LAX in Los Angeles is also open, but passengers shouldn't come to the airport without checking with their airline. The three main airports in New York City area, LaGuardia, Newark, and JFK, they're closed. And as for the nation's two busiest airports, Chicago's O'Hare and Atlanta's Hartsfield, both are open with limited flights. But just because some airports are open doesn't mean you'll get to fly. Southwest Airlines will resume a modified schedule this morning at 11 o'clock Eastern Time, and its first priority will be to get stranded and diverted passengers home.
Terror to fulfill his crusade against the United States. The where of bin Laden is mainly Afghanistan, where he built his terrorist camps. The Taliban regime there, which has sheltered bin Laden, has imposed its version and vision of Islam on Afghanistan. Women can work only in health and education fields and have few rights. There is a ban on using the internet and on importing movies, musical instruments, and even playing cards. Western aid workers have been put on trial, charged with the crime of preaching Christianity. In March, the Taliban blew up a pair of 2,000-year-old statues of Buddha, despite international appeals to save the treasures that had no place in the purist Islamic society the Taliban are trying to build. If bin Laden and the Taliban have much in common, bin Laden is more engaged in backing fellow Arabs in their conflict with Israel, which is backed by the United States, and in attacking the leaders of his homeland, Saudi Arabia, whom he sees as the materialistic pawns of a militaristic United States, which has stationed its troops there. And so it is the United States that has become, in Osama bin Laden's eyes, the evil enemy that needs to be cut down in size and power. Literally, brutally cut down. Garrick Utley, CNN, New York.
The financial world is also feeling the effects of Tuesday's attacks. Here's Rhonda Schaffler with that.
Retailers wonder how consumers will react. I'm Rhonda Schaffler at the CNN-FN News Desk in New York. Aside from difficulties getting some stores up and running again in the New York area, many believe the biggest long-term effect of the blast could be psychological. One retail analyst says some consumers could feel guilty treating themselves to new items they might consider frivolous. In that case, they may be more likely to buy things they need rather than items they want. Consumer reaction could be especially important.
Found in the rubble. The NTSB says the Voice cockpit reporter could give them insights into how the hijackers managed to get control of the plane. The Voice box electronically records conversations going on in the cockpit. It is being analyzed in a D.C. lab as we speak. The Defense Department says up to 190 people were killed Tuesday when the American Airlines 757 crashed into the Pentagon. That includes 64 people who were on the plane itself, originally headed to Los Angeles from Dulles International.
Investigators continue their extensive worldwide search for those.
Earlier today on Fox News Sunday, Federal Emergency Management Agency Director Joe Albaugh, who visited the site in New York, was talking about the devastation there, and he said it's his expectation that it would be a period of months before they could simply finish the cleanup, and obviously will be years. Nevertheless, Mayor Rudolph Giuliani has been saying repeatedly that the first order of business once they get the cleanup done is to put trade towers back up again, perhaps even larger.
You know, I can't see that happening, Tony, for this reason, that one of the saddest parts of this whole thing is there are hundreds, maybe thousands of bodies that will never be recovered because they've been burned beyond recognition. They've disintegrated, and I think it'll have to be a cemetery, a memorial.
It can be both a memorial.
This is Killer 8AC, 23 Alpha, over. Cutter Monomoy, this is Coast Guard 220527, channel. Right, 27, Monomoy, over. 27, correction, Monomoy is 27. I'm en route, your position at your time. Is that you off the stern of the Bainbridge Island? Roger, Bainbridge Island standing by this frequency. Just go alongside them and grab a message to bring to my unit, over. Break, Bainbridge Island, Newcastle traffic. This is Indimex New Delhi on channel 23. Cutter Monomoy, this is Cutter Tahoma, over.
Okay, we'll look clear right for Marshall.
Tahoma, Monomoy. Cutter Tahoma, any recreational vehicles that are currently within the East River and are trapped between security zones are to choose a destination, head to that destination, and remain there. We are unsure when security zone will be lifted. When they pick their destination, that is their home. Over. Tahoma Monomoy, you're broken.
And there you see on a brilliant sunny day what used to be the World Trade Center. More than 5 days after Tuesday's bombings, there's still smoldering wreckage, and who knows how long that will take to extinguish. Fred and Mort, this has to be immensely depressing footage, especially to those who've been presenting themselves at the Armory day after day, hoping that somebody is still alive, that people may be able to make it out of the rubble. And it's even more astonishing. You try to imagine things and you can't.
I know. I'm glad those pictures have been made available, because you know, all we've had is barriers and no one's gotten close. Now we have some idea of the vastness of this destruction. We could only see it in our mind's eye. Now we can see it with our real eyes, and I'm glad.
Yeah, these shots, they don't. I mean, they really capture the magnitude of this devastation. That all that. Shots from the ground and the cameras there of the rescue workers and the firemen and then the policemen, they just don't capture it when you just see a pile of rubble. When you see it from the top, it is truly extraordinary and truly devastating.
As of this morning, and I'm sure the figure's much higher by now, they removed 22,000 tons of rubble, and yet they're not even close.
They're not barely begun. What I'm amazed at is that we've only got 5,000 people missing. You know, the original projections were that 50,000 people were in those buildings. I mean, it is a miracle that so many people got out, not to mourn the thousands who died, but I'm surprised that we're not tens of thousands of victims.
Yeah, I think that 50,000 figure turned out to be a little high, that at any one time there were only perhaps 20 or 23 or 25,000 people there. Still, your point is right, an awful lot. I mean, 20,000 people may have gotten out of that building alive, those two towers.
And again, you hear, even so, you hear these astonishing stories of people trapped on upper floors doing what would come naturally, making phone calls, once the phone systems went down, making cell phone calls to say their goodbyes. So, well, one of the other tragedies that could occur is if the assaults on New York and Washington could alter the way in which we view people who are American citizens. Jim Zogby is head of the Arab American Institute, and he joins us from another of our studios here in Washington. Mr. Zogby, welcome.
Thank you, Tony, for the coverage. I know it's been exhausting and emotionally draining for all of you who've been with this story day in, day out, but bringing it to the rest of us has been important.
Now, you have been especially concerned with acts of violence directed at Arab Americans. There also, however, are still reports that there are some people at large in the country whose stated goal is to kill Americans, and I don't think they care if they're Arab Americans or not. What statement would you have for them?
Other than damning them to hell and telling them that my anger at them is a double anger. It's that they have threatened the lives, and in this case taken the lives of so many of my fellow Americans, but that they put my community at risk in a doubly tragic way. We've lived with this problem of terrorism, and we've lived with the problem of negative stereotypes, and we see them combine on occasion. After the Oklahoma City bombing, Arab Americans took a tremendous beating, and we did even after the TWA plane went down, that turned out to, from all that we know, not to be an attack of any sort. Now that this thing has happened, and it appears that there are Arabs who were involved, and Middle Easterners, others who are Muslim, we don't know what, all the details of all these individuals, and nothing is absolutely hard fast yet, but it looks very, very clear that the law enforcement is on this. It is, in fact, taking a toll, but I will tell you that that in my community, the sentiment is very clear. Arab Americans worked in the World Trade Center and died. Arab Americans were on the planes and died. There are Arab American doctors working now and policemen and firemen as part of the rescue crews. We're a part of this America United, as you are terming it. And the fact is that those in my community who are a part of the community don't know these people. I remember when the names came out, we were calling around, and people have no idea who these people are. They don't come here and become a part of our civil society, part of our organizations, and mingle with the rest of the community and say, oh, guess what we're going to do.